All right, here we go. So, we're going to start off with a recap of the campaign now that we're at the finale. Feel free to jump in when I'm going through things. If there's things I forget to mention, I have left some things out. It's not going to be every little detail, but it is going to be the basics so that you all remember a lot of important stuff because this campaign has taken a while.
Look at all these pages right here.
Mm-hmm.
Got at least 9 to 10 pages, front and back.
Yeah.
In chronological order.
Oh.
So here we go.
Okay, and so we're going to start off with the first scenario, which was Go Forth. Took place in 2001. One Delta Green agent, Moraine Moss, a.k.a. Agent Denise, is tasked by an Agent Clove to do a raid on an orphanage known as Cornucopia House. Moraine was shown a pink Hello Kitty folder containing child rape and murder and all sorts of horrifying things being done to the children by the Cornucopia House staff. She was also given the name of 3 friendlies who Agent Clove is familiar with to use on the raid. Those 3 friendlies were Detective Thomas Thompson from Chicago, Deputy Jake Blevins from Virginia, and FBI Agent Frank Campbell from Washington. The group met, introductions were made, and they began to prepare for the raid through buying some weapons and tools. They also looked into Cornucopia House and spoke with the social worker Carrie Houghton, who appeared to have been a victim of some sorcery on part of the cultists. During the prep time, each agent suffered an animal bite or scratch from seemingly otherwise peaceful animals. Frank, however, was pretty crafty in evading the first trap, and he managed to avoid the snake that was going to bite him, but eventually a wasp got him. A dog bit Jake Blevins, a spider bit Moraine Moss, and a murder of crows scratched in Thomas Thompson. They learned that Cornucopia House was part of a Skopsy cult, this Russian unnatural cult that deals with worshipping the Magna Mater. And yeah, they were pedophiles. Gotta kill them. The raid began too soon due to poor thinking by the agents, and Thomas Thompson and Moraine Moss soon found themselves ingesting strange mother's milk from a wizened old crone, the babushka of Cornucopia House. Frank Campbell and Jake Blevins watched from the property outside and saw the odd behavior of the children playing, with one small blonde boy catching their eye as he carved something in the tree. Something they later saw was 4 stick figures with small cuts in them where the agents had been bitten and scratched. The figures formed the bottom teeth in a gaping black mouth. While trying to stage a rescue, Jake Blevins suffered severe burns and had to be saved by Frank Campbell. Frank Campbell managed to turn the tide and regroup with the others after Babushka had been terminated. The 4 then raided the main house and took out the remaining employees, though not before Jake suffered losing 5 fingers to gunfire.
I forgot how many fingers I'd lost.
Yeah, with the enemies down, they checked on the children. The children didn't make one sound. They were quiet. They just stared. The blonde boy from earlier seemed to be a sort of leader of the group, and he led the kids to get some food from the cabinet and also to the barn, where they each retrieved a small pet from a cage that they were taking care of. The blonde boy, whose name label showed he was called Conradin, had a ferret. Conradin leads Moraine Moss to the Babushka House and retrieves a book from a wall. The book is called The Chronicles of Clovis and gives it to Moraine.
Moraine reads it.
No, Moraine did not read it. Not ever. Inside is the story.
Still not.
Inside is the story titled Sredni Vashtar, which will be explained later. You guys found a number of drawings around the house showing what seemed to be you all, as if the kids knew you were coming, or as if the kids had summoned you there. They found a shed with material being prepped for mailing to paying customers of different pedophilia stuff. One guard dog was friendly and behaving oddly towards the agents. His name was Mr. Throb, according to his collar. Moraine called Agent Clove to report in once they were done, and she learned that Delta Green did not authorize this mission. Clove had taken it upon herself to. Clove also told Moraine that she knew what she had to do with the kids. The group refused to kill the kids, and the group decided to call the police and let them deal with this. The group decided you can't fix every problem, you need to walk away. That's just how it is. The group staged a car accident to explain Jake's wounds and to go back home. Frank Campbell took the book, The Chronicles of Clovis, from Moraine, and they staged a car accident to explain Jake's wounds, and then it ended with Jake seeing the devil, who he met before the campaign began, in his hospital bed, smiling at him. And that was 2001. After that, there were a series of episodes called The Lawn Years. We're not going to go through all of them, but those took place between 2001 to 2016. They focused on each individual agent through a series of vignettes that focus on their bonds, choices, and long-term effects from the Cornucopia House raid, as well as each character's status with Delta Green. Thomas joined the program, took part in the outlaw raid on the Scop Sea after the program proved unhelpful due to CIA pressure to back off of a former informant. During the raid, he took severe damage, but miraculously lived. He got married to his journalist girlfriend, Catherine. He had a son he named Frank. He raised his young brother, Jeremy, and Frank together. He had an orange cat named Pineapple. He fought some supernatural threats in Chicago for the program. His wife got cancer, and in order to pay for the treatment, helped his dirty cop friend traffic some drugs. Jake Blevins, he joined the program. He killed unnatural enemies near his hometown, becoming a hero for saving scouts in a cave from a Red King monster inside. He rescued children from a burning house where he saw the devil again. He became sheriff and saw his girls grow up. Moraine, animals killed themselves in order to slow her down from getting on the plane that was used in 9/11.
I was like, I'm getting on this plane.
She found her father had a bottomless hole in the backyard at the family farm. Father Moss used it to get money, feeding the hole with waste. Moraine got into a relationship with a Pisces agent from Britain who turned out to be controlled by a member of the alien race known as the Shan, a race that Moraine had fought before Cornucopia House. She also looked after the boy Oliver, who she had rescued from the Shan in 2000. Her relationship with the Pisces agent, James Black, ended before 2016. She did some more operations for the program, also worked as an FBI agent, including a brief stint assisting the Border Patrol and even testifying against some of them, irritated other law enforcement officers due to the lack of solidarity. Frank Campbell tracked Moraine down on 9/11 and had a talk with her at the airport. He also raised his kids while dealing with his wife's bipolar illness. He saved a woman from a museum from a crazy man, and then refused to cheat on his wife with this woman later.
You're a good man.
After the War on Terror started, he was reassigned to terrorism. He refused to entrap a mentally ill Muslim man under terrorism charges. He eventually went to the Middle East with some soldiers due to his art background. He was captured by terrorists and held prisoner with another member of the program, who then officially invited him to join. While there, he handled and saw some artifacts referencing Egyptian gods, including Isis, Ra, Bast, etc., also Neferka. After returning from the Middle East, he got into some fights, including at his kid's school with other parents who he thought were supernatural in some way. And then all four of these agents got an invite to Baltimore by Delta Green because they were all in trouble. So there's this 2016, Red Thoughts. 4 agents were summoned by Delta Green. Loose ends from 2001 had surfaced and implicated the 4 agents in something big. Media and various law enforcement groups are integral now. They had to explain everything that happened to their new handler, Anthony Pizzarelli. Moraine had known Pizzarelli briefly in her childhood, and they were childhood friends. Moraine actually helped him when Pizzarelli was being bullied. But Pizzarelli lays out the plan. These 4 need to cover up, find a scapegoat, and stop the unnatural threat. They are labeled Team Masticate, and he sends them forth. The problem started in Florida when a woman was found dead in her trailer. She appeared to have been gnawed on by animals post-death. She had a journal with one bloody page sitting open with the agent's real names and address at Cornucopia House. This woman was Agent Clove. The cop who was looking into this called the local sheriff department near the address found on the bloody page. A deputy went out to the location where he found the location of Carrie Houghton, where she found the body of Carrie Houghton brutally murdered at the site of the former Cornucopia House. While there, a Rottweiler dog was digging up something, and the deputy investigated and found a mass grave full of children. Everyone got involved: the county sheriff's department, Maryland State Police, and the governor. Someone needed to take the fall. Masticate arrived, performed an investigation. They met Sheriff's Deputy Costa, who was kind of a scumbag, and Detective Vasquez from the state police. Turns out Carrie Houghton had been killed by 3 former Cornucopia House children, now young adults. They brought her to the site of the former Cornucopia House, now a storage site for a new private prison that was constructed. There they brutally murdered and tortured her to death. They never spoke. The tools they used were already laying on the ground, having fallen off a truck a couple of days ago on accident. At the crime scene, they find remains of black congealed liquid in the mass grave. Testing this liquid, they determine it heals wounded animals before degenerating their brains, causing tumors and death. Carrie Houghton's brain suffered similarly. Back in 2001, Vasquez was a rookie cop who worked with 2 senior detectives who passed in the last 15 years. Through the course of the investigation, many animals acted oddly, seeming to have helped the killers and leading the agents to clues that helped them solve the case. The agents discovered the killers converged on Carrie Houghton's apartment without seemingly any communication tools. All at once, it grabbed her when she was taking out some trash due to her cat throwing up. It was random and couldn't have been planned for. At the apartment, the players found the cat hanged itself, and the place was a hoarding nightmare. She lost her job long ago as her mind degraded. At one point in the investigation, a lab tech had taken the black goo to give to a persistent journalist, but he accidentally touched it and turned it into a ropey mess of a creature that the agents put down and covered up. The agents looked into what happened to the Cornucopia House kids. The kids were assigned to one of 3 active youth facilities in existence at the time. Each stay lasted at most 9 months. They were given what's known as bus therapy. After the rescue, the children of Cornucopia House were again abandoned, each essentially sold to whatever adoption agency, treatment facility, religious camp, or other concern that thought it could transform a child from a state deficit into a private profit. The tracks have been obscured so as to make it nearly impossible to trace the past through life, and accountability for their neglect has been scrubbed away. One such place was Arnold Springs. The kids seemingly suffered from a laundry list of psychological disorders: ADD, ADHD, PTSD, BPD, oppositional defiant disorder, reactive attachment disorder, varying degrees of autism. Most children, particularly the younger ones, were nonverbal, waffling between catatonia and violent outbursts, especially when separated from their peers. The sheer variety of care they required overwhelmed the in-house educational staff of the facility. They lacked the specialists required to meet the needs. They were soon transferred the 4 most severe cases to self-contained child care facilities around the country. The children were placed through 3 children were placed through local adoption and had their records at Arnold Springs sealed in legal proceeding. Peace Love took 6. They were sent to public school so the private company wouldn't have to pay tutors for education. They received much the same standard diagnosis as Arnold Springs. However, the educational diagnosis from the local school district claimed no evidence of behavioral or learning disabilities. The only reason it agreed to take on the educational load of the private youth facility was in exchange for their ADA money, which provided funding from the state based on the number of students enrolled. Despite behavioral issues caused by at-risk kids, this deal had previously been profitable for both the facility and the school. However, the influx of specialized staff required to teach 6 nearly pre-verbal students added to the district's roster mid-year would have likely bankrupted the school. In an attempt to protect the district from federal laws requiring they provide services to all qualified students, Daughtry disqualified the students from Cornucopia House from special education services. By the time the fall semester of the next year started, the behavior of the educationally neglected students worsened to the point that the private healthcare provider forfeited additional state payments for each child's care and renegotiated the custody arrangements for each survivor, sending them to other private health facilities around the country, the paperwork trail falling apart. Mary's Place took 6, but it was defunded within 2 months by the governor's smart growth budget cuts. They were shipped out of state with no trail left behind as to where they were sent. King Torinos in North Carolina took in 4 children: Nakia Chilikov, Elle Gable, Conrad Hopko, and Jennifer Willis. There were 3 adoptions. Lila Bodorenko died at 15 in 2008 trying to hop a freight train and fell beneath the wheels. Her adopted family reported her missing several times. Her family seemed loving and stressed about her bad and violent aggressive behavior, drug usage, and attempts to run away. Each time they tried to find her, though. Samuel Ball, adopted in 2002 at 6. He was illegally returned to the state at 2005 at a social services office as the adoptive parents claimed they were unfit to parent him after Samuel attempted to kill their daughter with a knife. The adoptive parents were sentenced to jail and temporarily lost custody of their daughter. They divorced soon after. Samuel had violent outbursts towards them that intensified when the daughter was born. Samuel was given bus therapy after this, but he ran away in 2008. The daughter was then given permanently to her grandmother. The father went searching for Samuel in 2009, finding him at a shelter in Florida, St. Lawrence, still not speaking. The boy smiled and stabbed his adoptive father 8 times in the chest, and there were other silent children with Samuel at the shelter. And then the last adoptee was Thomas Perez, adopted and homeschooled by the Cunninghams on their farm in Maryland. He murdered his parents and both adopted siblings weeks before the killing of Carrie Houghton, stabbed in their sleep. Through facial recognition, tattoos, footage, and prints, the agents determined the killers of Carrie Houghton were Thomas Perez, Samuel Ball, and Al Gable. They prepared a report for Pizzarelli and placed the blame on the state police, including Detective Vasquez, a rookie on the original Cornucopia House call in 2001. Vasquez is angry at this, but has to accept it. The asshole local cop, Michael Costa, is pleased his department isn't taking the fall, and things get wrapped up. Pizzarelli then has the agents shred the findings after saving it to a flash drive. When a dump truck emblazoned with the logo Cat's Paw Shredding Services backs into the shredder, knocking it over, and bursting a pipe with iron oxidized reddish-brown water spilling everywhere, the agents are given a message from scraps of paper falling in the air on themselves. And it says, ask, know, become.
I wrote that down.
Yes.
It's in quotation marks even.
And then the, let's see here. Then the next scenario was White Teeth. Team Masquerade proceeded down the East Coast after the killers of Carrie Houghton. The first stop checking in on the only living former social worker assigned to Cornucopia House, Franklin Price. He lived at Charlotte's Rest Veterans Home for the last 20 years, his mind wrecked by babushka like Carrie Houghton's. Right before the agents arrived, Al Gable beat them there and seemingly took control of a few friendly dogs in the hallway. They mauled the front desk nurse and got to Price's room. The agent shot her dead, but not before Ellie stabbed Price in the chest. Once she died, the animals calmed down. Price whispers before dying, she's one of the quiet children. Clutched in his hand, torn from Ella Gable, is a pamphlet advertising St. Lawrence Church with doodles by Ellie on the back. Grabbing Price's file before fleeing the scene, the team learns the full story of a nice dedicated man's sentences into senility and then silence. He apparently claimed he had an adopted daughter, Nakia Chilikov, who he had heard had been sent to King Torino's Children's Refuge. But caretakers at King Torino eventually admitted to having custody of Nakia, but they insisted that Franklin Price was no relation to her, adopted or otherwise. The agents then went to King Torino's orphanage. They found Nakia, 22-year-old junior caretaker at the orphanage. After introducing themselves as law enforcement, the group eventually admitted they were the ones who raided Cornucopia House. Through Nakia, they learned that she arrived in 2001. She was incontinent, bit and clawed everyone, lost the will to speak, and had convinced herself she couldn't speak. She was only able to get better through Dr. Sarah Bryce, who personally worked hard to save Nakia and eventually adopted her after Nakia aged out of the facility. Sarah Bryce died of a brain tumor in 2012. The other children that came with her, one left after a week, a blonde boy. Ellie was sent away and Jennifer ran. Before they left, Nakia was dead to them because she spoke to Dr. Bryce. They were the quiet children, and I rejected their silence. You either spoke or you were part of the tribe. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. You knew it in your bones.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. They don't think like you or me. They don't see things. Or rather, they only see things, but nothing means anything. Language, the way we talk and even think, is alien. Things have no name. Things just happen as they must. There's a kind of comfort, knowing that there's no other way, knowing that dreams of anything better are always lies. The only nightmares are real. It's how we survive the pain. It's how many of these little ones here learn to survive. Give yourself over to it. When you're like that, you go out into the world and you know something else is moving you. But I was only pretending to be one of them, pretending it didn't hurt, pretending I had no hope. When I stopped pretending, they stopped loving me. There's only the actual to them. Things are or they aren't. They just act. We saw the world as something hungry, hateful, predator, and everyone else served it. People who smiled wanted to feed you to it. But even our angriest, there was no why, no choice, only instinct. I sometimes wonder if that was like that for the others. And if they're right, if imagining control is itself its own form of madness. In classes, they would scream Claude during the lesson during any speech. I joined them at first. We resisted the call to join the monsters in adulthood. Their words were poison, a flag of evil armies. But Sarah Bryce helped me. Words came back and I no longer feared them. I listened to the lessons. One night, Ellie Gable stabbed me with scissors while I slept. They bounced off my skull and landed on my shoulder, which is what saved me. She was shipped away the next day. Eventually, all of them left like that. They make signs when I betrayed them, new signs I couldn't read. Silence is sometimes not enough for us. For them, they use pictures of places. One would point a figure at something, then draw a picture of it. That was the new sign for it. It wasn't quite language. There was no grammar or abstract ideas, but it's how they communicate when they feel the urge. They don't need the drawings. Language is about control of others, and they don't have control over themselves. But I think they want the game of it. They want words deep down in their flesh, but they can't admit it. If they had to meet somewhere, they would use the pictures. That would be enough. Everything is always just enough to make sure the thing that must happen does happen. But there's no why. There's no why for them. There's no why for me or you either. They've never heard the fable of why. Never believed the lie of choice. They only act. Whatever is happening to you is whatever happening to me. What happened to them? What is what is supposed to happen. What will always happen because there's no other way, no other time. We talk ourselves out of it, but it can't be changed. We drown out the screams with our talk, and it does not make the truth go away. They see the actual. We are all inside it. And Nakia was working on a thesis using 3 of the figures: Nakia, Ellie, and Jennifer. She quickly learned that having them all together wasn't good for them, and separating was important. The 4th file for Konrad Danilovich Hopko is entirely empty, but for a post-it note with the scrawl FBI case 07-195-121.
Which we definitely asked about.
In the thesis notes, there appears to be a red brain that seems to symbolize danger, especially from an authority figure. It appears her thesis notes seem to be plagiarized, as she has an email exchange with a user named ScribeLife420 from papermill.us, an online essay farm. It appears she needed help formulating proper sentences of her ideas. ScribeLife420 started the exchange saying he'd been tipped off she needed his help after the death of Dr. Bryce. It was then that Samuel Ball attacked the orphanage with a bear. Thankfully, the agents killed the bear and Samuel. The agents then went to the trailer park where Agent Clove had been living in disguise. She had been torn apart by animals in a trailer right after all the cats went missing. The cop on duty had found a paper with the agent's name and cornucopia house address on it, had been fired due to his wild conspiracy of secret pedophile cults and secret government agencies covering it up. And the sheriff said that it must have just been a heart attack and animals got in and nibbled on the corpse. As they were at the park, a biker all in yellow with a dark visor spoke to Jake Blevins, saying, "It has been too long since you've been up, my pet. I missed you. I admit the fault is partly mine, my attention's elsewhere, my thoughts divided. My affection's forever with you. You must be so hungry. There is more fuel for your tiny fires in other climes, more willing flesh to carry your majesty on a palanquin tour of this strange place. Perhaps we may play a game before you recede beneath and between. I can always spare some of myself to feed so interesting a machine. I do so miss the games we played in our dalliance amongst the children of Atlantis. It's good to see you too, Jake." And the figure, who was the same devil figure Jake had seen several times before, opened his visor and a huge tongue erupted from the opening, licking Jake and covering him in blood. The devil then sped away. Meanwhile, Frank went into the swamp, finding all the missing animals, who apparently walked all the way out there just to stand there and die of malnutrition. After this, the group went after the deputy who found Clove's remains and think there may be a conspiracy. They tricked him, confiscating all the evidence he had and convincing him he's going to be admitted into a secret agency. The agents then arrived at St. Lawrence Church, and after seeing similar graffiti, the Red Brain, to the one on the pamphlet Ellie Gable had on the drawing on Clove's trailer, they talked to a young homeless boy and local priest who sees too much of the homeless children population of Miami, Father Robledo. The priest confirmed Ellie Gable, Samuel Ball, and Jennifer Willis were here years ago in 2011. They were banished after Gable stabbed a young kid. None of them spoke. They did have another youth with them, Philip, who would speak, and through Philip, much of the complex mythology was revealed to the father and other children. Many details are contradictory and not everyone agrees, but the general gist of the mythos goes like this. There is the Hungry Mother. The world outside the shelter belongs to the Hungry Mother, who takes many shapes, sometimes a toothy, tentacled nightmare, sometimes a kindly old woman. When people go missing, the children whisper it was the Hungry Mother who did it. The Hungry Mother is blamed for everything, including keeping a mother from finding a job, sending cops to bust up an encampment, spiking drugs. The children whisper that heaven and earth are merely a farm for the Hungry Mother. The majority of the world is unaware they are merely being raised as food, as cattle. Reality is a lie used to keep the cattle docile while the Hungry Mother consumes their misery. Everything exists to feed her. The only possible redemption comes from accepting this truth. The Hungry Mother is served by red-minded men and opposed by the quiet children and silent slaves. The red-minded men, the red brain symbolizes them. They disguise themselves as ordinary people to prey on the homeless, especially the children. They appear as cops, pushers, pedophiles, scammers, abusers, federal agents. They're the bad guys. They hunt the quiet children and silent slaves who help everyone else understand the truth of the Hungry Mother. The symbol concerns the father because it discourages those in need from seeking help as they feel society has let them down. There's the quiet children, the unspeaking children who other kids regard as angels fallen from heaven. They refuse to speak because they know all speech is a lie. Life would be easier if they could escape the love that's programmed into their souls, but they can't. So they seek to wake people to the dangers of the Hungry Mother. When a quiet child dies, it's to reveal the truth to humanity through the only language it still knows. The quiet children have special powers. They can see past the tricks of the mother. They sometimes know what's about to happen and how to avoid it. They can come to harm, but only when they wish to. The quiet children test each other to make sure they have the strength to fight the Hungry Mother's servants. The tests are brutal, sometimes deadly. The silent slaves call it sharpening. The silent slaves were a few children who had gone through a phase where they imagined themselves slaves of silence. Silent slaves speak for the quiet children. Not sign, writing, or even eye contact is required for this translation of thought into language to occur. Perhaps the speakers lacked the power and attention that came with prophecy, being thought angels. Most seem to grow out of it. Everything known about the theology of the Hungry Mother was once preached by a silent slave. Silent slaves were like angels, like the quiet children. They know speech is a lie. That makes people food for the Hungry Mother, but they can't help but return to the comfort of the lie. The quiet children do not forgive anyone breaking their vow, so they conscript these weaker angels into service as silent slaves. The children insist that the real ones talk funny, and that's how they tell which truly preach for the quiet children and which pretend. The last two figures in this mythos were the speaker. There are rumors that quiet children and the silent slaves wait for some unnamed messianic figure. This is dangerous, of course, because it primes these young people for manipulation and abuse by would-be cult leaders, but so far it has not come to that. 3 outsiders over the years tried to gather the children and slaves to them as followers. One abandoned it as too much effort for too little reward. One fled after a terrible beating. One vanished. The quiet children and silent slaves still wait for their Messiah. The silent slave says the speaker is coming. The speaker is like the quiet children, but possessed of the true voice. The speaker stole it from the Hungry Mother during its escape from her throat. That makes the speaker powerful. The speaker will be able to wake up the cattle. The speaker isn't coming to offer grace or forgiveness or even to give meaning to life, but for revenge against the Hungry Mother and to give meaning to pain. And then the final figure is Sredni Vashtar. It is a sort of combination of Ragnarok, the Second Coming, and the Apocalypse of Revelations. The speaker seems to be the key. Stories vary wildly, but they all revolve around the end goal of informing mankind they are cattle for the Hungry Mother. When that happens, the suffering people and angels will cry out in a single choir of pain. Sredni Vashtar will hear and come. Another child...
Yeah.
Huh?
What?
Huh? Do you think this is important?
This whole little section.
Yeah. Another child noted Sredni Vashtar is asleep. The Hungry Mother keeps Sredni Vashtar locked in her cellar, but the lock won't hold. When the speaker wakes up enough of the cattle, they'll cry out all of their pain and wake up Sredni Vashtar. And Sredni Vashtar will come out and eat the Hungry Mother. Then we'll all be free. Another child noted Sredni Vashtar is violent and savage, but honest and pure. Sredni Vashtar lives only to hunt. Just like human animals hunt other animals, Sredni Vashtar eats other gods. Sredni Vashtar is truth. It does not tolerate the lies and unnatural corruption of the Hungry Mother's factory farm. At this point, the agents seem to understand that they themselves might be caught up in something. That was the moment that Morgan said, "Are we God's teeth?" The father tells them the people most likely responsible for the graffiti lives across the street in an abandoned house. Checking it out, they find Jennifer Willis and Philip inside. Jennifer casts a spell to confuse them while taunting them by saying, "She hungered, she God, she Shredni Vashtar. She eat it all, but eat you most. Ate with and on forever. You stink of outside. Hungry mama, mama to you. They grab babies from heaven, but hungry mama send you. Say mine, give back. Hungry mama make both. Make us and make you. Make us and when God save us. God gonna eat hungry mama. Wake up and bust free and eat. Ellen Sammy thinks you feed God. Thinks you don't like us. Thinks you red-minded. Thinks God has ate you up. Tommy thinks you just as do the chewing. Just a tooth. Which? Ate up or eat? Or ate up and eat same time like us. Like bite the tongue. We find out which. We see, smell and see. Eat or eat. You a tooth? Make you sharp. Just meat. Eat you up. Surprise, Jenny. Sitting good for surprises. Only good in it. You guys shot Jennifer. And she had Philip in there as her prisoner, who in a week in state who offered to teach you magic, and then he was shot by Jake Blevins.
Hey.
The group then followed clues on the walls and a vision given to Frank to Alligator Alley. Off the road, they marched into the swamp and came upon several cornucopia kids around a bonfire. As they approached, lone figures strode towards them. Thomas Perez, the final killer of Carrie Hatton, tears welling in his eyes, he signs an ASL. I know you serve her, her teeth. Thank you. We've missed you. He is coming. He is coming. But she must not starve. We will feed her. Now you take us to her. And then, as he signs, the other kids all fall into the water, letting themselves be torn apart by alligators. However, rising from the swamp as a result of that ritual, alligator chimeras made up of the beasts and the cornucopia kids, they fused with Rise and rushed the agents. Thomas Perez rushed forward with a knife but is shot dead by the agents. A fight ensues and Moraine loses her legs and one arm before both monstrosities are torn apart by gunfire. Jake manages to save Moraine's life and the group take her to a hospital. After a quick report to Pizzarelli, the team goes their separate ways. And that ends 2016. We can go quicker on the other ones. So the next one was 2017, God's Eye. After the White Teeth, the team went back to their families. Thomas told his journalist girlfriend the truth about Delta Green. Moraine goes to live at her father's farm with the bottomless hole. Jake reconnects with his girls, embracing their new dog Cricket that showed up. Frank's son was able to get out of ISIS. Team Skate now minus Moraine Moss convenes in Reno, Nevada. New team member Robin Reyes gets off on the wrong foot with the others. Jake calls Moraine to tell her that he misses her leadership of the team. Moraine also asks Jake if he saw the news that Detective Vasquez recently committed suicide a few days ago. Robin was then bit by an Egyptian cat on the tarmac. Then the investigation begins. An advanced drone system is being used to perform a ritual to meet up with Yog-Sothoth. This has the side effect of transporting people who understand what's going on and are seen by the drone to different times and places. Nearly a dozen people die horrifically as a result, including most of the drone company, once the agents help them piece it together. After putting all the pieces together, the team takes out some cartel members used by the programmer as part of the ritual. Near the end, Jake steps out of the vehicle to try losing the drone, following the vehicle. However, he is teleported elsewhere and dies somewhere far away, eaten by enormous spiders. This panics the innocent driver they were using to move around safely.
I forgot about that.
After calming him down, they finally track down the programmer responsible for the ritual and drag down Anthony Cooper, a former Cornucopia House kid. He lost the connection to Shredni Vashtar and was desperate to feel that again. He chose the wrong god, but he was trying. I believe Thomas was the one that killed him, and just killed him without a fight. On the way back to the hotel, the team realizes the driver is a loose end. Frank and Thomas are for letting him go, but Robin moves first and slits the driver's throat while they're speeding down the road, causing a high-speed accident. Thomas broke his neck and should have died, but ended up in a coma instead. Meanwhile, Moraine is abducted from her family farm by her ex-boyfriend, Pisces agent James Black, who she can see now has a shame controlling him from his brain, and she goes missing. Later on, also in 2017, Thomas is in a coma now. Moraine is missing. Jake is dead. Frank Campbell is the only remaining member of the original Cornucopia House raid. Robin Reyes, the other member. Team Masquerade needs new blood, and Pizzarelli brings in FBI agent Bob Barnwell. Barnwell had a previous case where he tried to save children and they all died. That was his backstory, right?
Yeah, that's why I fit in with the team.
Yeah. Team Masquerade reconvened in Denver. A homeless former felon and former cornucopias kid had a supernatural reaction to a vape. He was locked up in jail at the time due to his manic behavior and suffered police abuse. The police were incredibly subservient to the agents and just wanted them to leave ASAP. Masquerade still killed the guard anyway, who had some of the incriminating footage, showing a creature erupting from the victim's chest. They then traced it all back to the Avalon Gardens Weed Company. They were able to get unfair favoritism to the owner's father, connections to the governor. The owner had stolen a plant from a former Cho-Cho gang that Delta Green fought in the past. Using that, he created stronger and stronger strains. With some funding from his dad and from a security company, he grew Avalon Gardens. Thomas Wallen's coma has a strange dream involving his wife, who was desperately trying to tell him something that Thomas couldn't hear. A man with a bull head and a red bird and Pineapple, the cat. The pineapple in the dream tells him to go to Denver. However, the cat seems confused when it's called Pineapple. At this moment, Thomas wakes from his coma, full of energy, and with a mission to go to Denver. After getting up, he talks to Pizzarelli, who tells him that the rest of the team is in Denver on a mission. However, Thomas may want to sit this one out, as Pitts tells Thomas that Catherine, his wife, committed suicide. Thomas reels from this, but decides to go to Denver anyway, ignoring his son's many messages.
It's going through bad.
Thomas then joins the rest of the group in Denver with the help of a programmed SWAT team. They plan a raid on the dispensary and grow house. First stop, they assassinate the owner's father at home. Then they raid the warehouse in the evening. The supernatural plants and insects inside fight back against the team. Everything goes to hell. The agents recovered money for Delta Green, destroyed evidence. Before leaving, they noticed some men fleeing the building carrying an unconscious Moraine Moss with a plant growing from her torso. Blowing up the building, they pull around and kill the men, though not before the shame inside one of them flies away. The plant inside Moraine grows out and lifts itself free, trying to run, but is then hit by the car by Team Masquerade.
It's insane that you're alive.
The plant inside, the unconscious Moraine is saved and brought back. Of the SWAT team, only the techie survived. The owner of the dispensary was eliminated. After returning home, Bob is bitten by his cat. Thomas returns to his son and brother. Frank returns to his wife and kids. Then there was God's Law in 2018. Team Masquerade reunites once again in Los Angeles. This time the team consists of Moraine Moss, Bob Barnwell, and Frank Campbell. Robin Reyes was away on another mission doing some goodwill, and Thomas Thompson had gone off the grid. A left-wing activist tore apart his own skull, and the team quickly put together that there was a deputy gang called the Slug Squad in LA's Sheriff's Department, whose enemies might testify against them, and they keep coming up dead. They learn more from Helena Estevez, an immigration attorney. The team operates outside the law while working regular jobs as cops during the day, covering up crimes as they go. Meanwhile, Thomas Thompson had been living the life of a vigilante in an RV, abandoning his family once again. He and his orange cat Pineapple.
I took my son.
You said no. You sent your son to like Europe or something.
Well,
Like
that
a
was
boarding
after.
school.
During the RV, he was with me,
Well,
but we were driving around the country and stuff.
okay. Well, but before this scenario started, when you were still in the RV, he wasn't there.
Well, yeah. Whenever the scenario started.
Yeah.
The in-between time, though.
Right. Okay. So he had his son with him in the RV for a time, and then eventually had the son sent to school. His son's like 12 now. At this point, using the powers of the scent and trusting Pineapple's whims, he traveled places and ended up killing a decent amount of people who he thought were unnatural enemies.
Yep.
Pineapple showed him a sign to go to LA, and after arriving, Thomas and his RV spotted Team Masquerade driving by in their vehicle. They all stop, pull off into Applebee's, and get caught up. Rain offers Thomas a spot back on Team Masquerade, and they continue investigating the deputy gang. In the course of the investigation, they learn about a serial killer the Slug Squad killed by the name of the Southside Tiger. They learn the names of the squad: Julian Sains, Freddie Sutton, Anton Gully, and the leader, John Marlin. And digging deeper into the members, they discover the bodies in Anton Gully's house. It's the first one they go to. Gully had been taken over by a creature that he became exposed to during the raid on the Southside Tiger. The entity was performing more experiments with the bodies and attempted to kill two birds by killing the left-wing activist from the beginning on the orders of John Marlin, and also test the results of his chemical concoction. The other members of the squad did not know what Gully was doing. However, Thomas's trailer is captured by the cops, including Pineapple inside.
Bastards.
Team Masticate laid an ambush at Gully's home, killing him, but not before Moraine loses a limb again and Thomas loses his legs. Thankfully, due to Babushka's milk, they will grow those back. Thomas decides he'll fake his death to hide. The team decides that the rest of the Stark Squad is not their problem. Walk away. It's someone else's thing. You can't fix everything. Just like they decided in 2001 with Cornucopia House.
Hey.
Hey, did you want us to kill all the children?
This is a recurrent theme of theirs. They can't fix everything. Someone else is problem.
We're only a small amount of people.
Bob returns to his dying mother, who is dying of cancer. Frank returns to his family with a promotion to team lead of Masticate on Bob's endorsement. Thomas decides to stay with Moraine at the Moss family farm while they both recover from their wounds. While en route, Thomas is visited by a motorcyclist who licks him like he did with Jake in 2016. This biker all in yellow with a dark visor. This is the devil. The devil spoke, saying, my pet, what a delightful treat you've been. Up and moving for the first time in how long? I admit I did miss that last tooth of yours. I hope this one will prove stronger. It's time to go back to sleep, my pet, before you hurt yourself. We'll play again, don't worry, but it's time to rest. At this point, he opened the visor, huge tongue lashed out, and spreads blood all over Thomas's face. He then speaks again with the visor down. Thomas Thompson, I hope you understand what all of this has done to you. The biker then sped away as Moraine comes out of the gas station with some glizzies, corn chips, big gulps, and other fixins. She went into heavy detail describing all of it.
It was. We
And
were
then
all.
dropped it on the
We
ground.
were all so hungry.
You
And
know,
now we have big gulps.
get all the fixins. And then in 2019, God's Light, Thomas and Moraine have recovered. However, their recovery is playing havoc on their mental faculties, and their memory worsens mostly around non-supernatural things. Living on the Moss farm, they eat around the bottomless hole one day, and their utensils fly into the hole strangely. Bob's mother has passed. Frank's son was discharged from the army, and he has a girlfriend and baby now, making Frank grandfather. Team Masticate is called in to look into a mass shooter who was a former Cornucopia House kid. Before they head off, Pitts introduces the team with Team Gorge, made up of Robin Reyes and the Slug Squad, John Marlin, Julian Sains, and Freddie Sutton. They agree to work together despite Masticate's animosity. The team soon finds that the killer had been to or was from another reality due to a strange gun and other items. They learn the Picky Eater app is behind this, and they quickly they quickly get infected themselves by Picky Eater, and it soon spreads to people all around them.
Most do.
Most do, except for Frank Campbell, who is also a theme of Frank Campbell being the only one not to be fucked over. Honestly, your life is pretty good compared to everyone else's.
Yeah, you just keep
Except for my wife.
She's been fine for like 10 years.
It feels like 4 months ago.
As you go on, you slip into alternate realities as you go to each Picky Eater user, and you see what they chose to focus on. Realities where there's a global caliphate, an evil matriarchy, where Delta Green has won the mission forever, an Obama SJW 1984 style dictatorship, a world built on conspiracies, until finally they go to MIT and enter Dr. Wesley Cool's Picky Eater bubble. PCs even talk to people in alternate realities they are making, including different Pizzarellis and Bob's mother alive again. Through these bubbles, many people died, including a mom and child that Robin Reyes killed. The team brought the remaining child to the sheriff and attempted to talk to Nakia from King Torino's Child's Refuge about helping her out. Hopefully that was real.
Yes.
And you didn't just leave her at the shamble.
Well, I mean, we called and set it up.
Yeah. Well,
Was
hopefully,
it the real one or
hopefully that
not?
wasn't an alternate reality.
Who knows?
We'll never find out.
You guys decide it's not your problem, and
What do you... What? We didn't decide it wasn't our problem. We haven't had a check.
We had bigger.
We just ate a god. We have other things
we'll
going
get to
on.
the God things. Okay. You guys leave the child behind.
We left it in the...
This is a hatchet job.
You guys got to MIT, and Wesley Cole's reality was goofy and silly. He had worked with the Cornucopia House kid Anthony Cooper. While both were interested in reaching out to God, Cool wanted to find the guide between worlds, the undying one, Tawil Alumar. The two teams manage to follow Dr. Cool to the space between realities. They see a picky eater has infested an untold amount of realities. Circuitry lied everywhere, all along black white rocks and fed into an infinite number of dark pools representing different realities. The guide appeared, setting off the scent like crazy. The Undying One, Tawil Halimar, spoke to them and gave them several questions about reality and substance. Julian Saints tried to shoot, and when the bullets had no effect, was tortured endlessly by the god, being pulled apart lengthwise and pushed back together like an accordion on a loop. Everyone but Bob fumbled their answers. Sensing that they would all be destroyed and feeling the hunger like never before, Thomas's scent was overpowering, so much so that it's almost like he saw himself in third person from above. He prays to Srinivasta to send him a sign. And he then hears a voice in his head saying, Srinivasta came forth, his thoughts were red thoughts and his teeth were white. He then gets flashbacks to when the pit pulled in the utensils and when the bed and breakfast they went to didn't have any silverware. He had to eat with his hands. He also, we didn't mention this, but it also kind of like you asked Srinivasta, you remembered, you knew, you became, and then you ate the god, like the message you got back in 2016.
Did we fully destroy the god?
Yeah.
We devoured him.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
So this cycle isn't going on anymore. We stopped it.
Well, that
We destroyed a god.
yeah, you
Not
should-
that
a
god.
god. You pled to Srinivasta, and Srinivasta gave you those signs. Thomas lunged at the god's feet, tearing and biting into its flesh, and it's the most wonderful pain he's ever tasted. The other members of the team joined in, and soon all experienced the wonderful feeling, and you all witnessed the events from the same third-person perspective, overhead point of view. The Undying One felt fear and realized it was caught in a trap. He killed Freddie Sutton painfully, but before I can finish the rest off, the teeth of Srinivasta brought down their prey. It's unclear how long it took to kill the god. After some time, the body was picked clean, and the agents were stumbling around in the area, looking dazed and vacant. Gradually, they started to come to their senses, waking from the stupor, and tried to find the Picky Eater originator circuit so they can destroy it, ending the app, and go home. The task involved them randomly smashing circuitry over and over and over and over. For over 100 years, mindlessly focused on the task, not a word said. Eventually, they found the right one. Destroyed it, eliminating Picky Eater across all realities and sending them back to the MIT campus. The agents all aged 10 years since they went in, physically, and they resolved to go their separate ways. Bob provided a partial report to Pitts, leaving out the eating of the god part. Bob sees his text from his alternate reality mom are gone and goes home. Frank goes home to his family, and his son says he's got a job in Wuhan. This is 2019, by the way. And he's going to do it unless Frank gets him a job working as a partner in the FBI. Frank agrees, thinking, how long can he do it? Take your child to work day or get him a job in the mailroom or something. Maureen goes back to the farm and her father, saying she's done now. She's definitely done. Thomas goes back to his son. Robin and John Marlin go back to LA and his apartment as Pineapple sits in a cage in the living room.
Those bastards took pineapple.
Okay, that was the fucking recap.